some conversations are not just normal. How many people fell into sin just because of a conversation? A simple conversation. How many people lost dominion and power in particular areas and aspects of their lives because they thought, I'm just having a normal conversation? When Satan came into the garden, he wasn't a beast. He came as an innocent serpent. Did God say? Eve responded. This is what the Lord said. And the conversation went on. That conversation didn't even last 3 minutes. But when the serpent left the garden, he left with the kingdom. Not more than 3 minutes conversation. But when that conversation had ended, Adam had lost everything that God had created him for. He stops living, he began existing. Because he had lost purpose. Let's look at this now. Man falls. In Genesis chapter number 3, man now falls. The fall of man is so interesting because this background is going to help us for this weekend. When we think of the fall of man and the redemption of man, we quickly think of the cross and we think of heaven. The fall and the redemption. We think of the cross, which is Calvary, and we think of heaven. When you check scriptures, you will see that there are 7 relationships that were affected when man fell. Let's write this down. The first relationship that was affected is the relationship between man and God. Now, this is where the gospel of salvation focuses. It focuses on fixing the relationship between man and God. That is why we'll gather in large halls and discuss the matters of doctrine, justification by faith. What is grace? What is sanctification? What is glorification? These fundamental principles of the doctrine of Christ mentioned in the book of Hebrews chapter 6 verses number 1. When Apostle Paul begins in Hebrews 5 verse 12, he says, if it were by time, ye ought to be teachers. But you still need someone to feed you milk again. Are you following? And then in chapter 6 verse 1, he says, let us go on unto perfection, not laying again the foundation of the first elementary principles of the doctrine of Christ. He names 6 of them: repentance from dead works, faith in God, baptisms, laying on of hands, resurrection of the dead, and eternal judgment. He says,